Now, your first alert weather.
Hey folks, welcome into the News 12 Now desk. Thanks for joining us here on this Wednesday, August 30th. A little bit after 12:45 here on our Wednesday. It's a first alert weather day for us here in the CSRA because we are still tracking Hurricane Idalia, a Category 1 storm now as it makes its way closer to our area. We've got our crew here with us. We've got our Chief Meteorologist, Hale, and Mikel Harding there in the studio for us. We've got Sydney Hood live in Waynesboro right now, and that's actually where we're going to start. Sydney, we did just hear from you on the TV side of things. How are things going right now in Burke County? Well, oh, hang on. There she is.
We've just got some. Oh, can you hear me?
It's a little spotty, Sid. It's a little spotty. So we'll see if we can, Garrett, can we increase her delay? Can we increase her delay? We're going to come back to Sydney. We'll try her again in just a minute. Guys, we'll start with you then in the studio. Take us through kind of what we're seeing right now as we get closer to 1 o'clock with Idalia.
Yeah, guys, so this is a Category 1 hurricane right now, and it's maintaining itself. And I would imagine even the next update that comes through, Mikel, that we don't really see this drop down from a Cat 1, even though it's been over land now for about, say, 6-8 hours.
Right.
It's still producing some strong wind, but it's really the rain risk. That's what we've been talking about the past couple of days, and where I think the real impact's going to come from us. So this is the latest on the track of Idalia. I'll let you take this over, Mikel.
Okay, so we're looking at Idalia as a Category 1 hurricane and still continuing to move through southern Georgia at this time. Wind's still at 85, so at the center is definitely still some strong winds, and that's sustained, not gusts, so just that constant wind out there. And we're looking at the forward motion at 20 miles an hour as well, so moving towards the northeast. Still more of a northerly component with that motion, but eventually it is projected to make that eastern hook through the coastline of South Carolina and then back out into the open waters of the Atlantic, somewhere near the border of South and North Carolina as we look towards Thursday morning. So definitely still have a wide window of impact here that we're still going to have to get through.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that it's been raining most of the day, but we have not seen the worst of this storm just yet. That center is still well off towards our south, so we're not expecting the center to make its closest approach until around 8 p.m. So we're actually getting ready for the worst of this storm for us here locally. So we're still in store for a lot of heavy rainfall. The wind's going to be picking up for the rest of this afternoon into this evening. And you can just see the wall of rain north of the center of this system. So this is all the heavy rainfall. You can see a lot of flash flood warnings around the center of that storm, around the core. That's where you're seeing the heaviest rain rate. So a lot of the rain we've seen so far today has been light to moderate. This is where the heavy stuff is coming into play, and that's what's going to move in later. And those rain rates are so intense, and we've already seen so much rain today, there's nowhere for this water to go. So it's just going to start stacking up. We're going to see our creeks, streams flood, and we're going to see most likely impacting some roads. I know a lot of times we see this type of intense rainfall with the tropical system that's just hours and hours on end. That's when we start to see roads washed out. We have a lot of rural counties with dirt roads, a lot of issues there. So people not being able to kind of get to and from where they live. And you can just see the intensity of this rainfall really starting to pick up in our southern counties, Mikel.
Definitely, and as we continue to look around the CSRA, you can just see some of those yellows and oranges indicating that moderate to heavier rainfall working in through some of our southern counties especially, and now slowly pinwheeling towards Augusta. So this will be the trend as we continue through this evening. As Riley said, that northwestern side of the eye wall, kind of where that heaviest rainfall is being found, and that's going to begin to work its way towards especially our southern counties as we draw closer towards maybe just before dinner time. But as far as radar estimated rainfall, this is just the past 24 hours, so not even looking back to say Sunday, portions of Monday where we saw some rainfall moving in even before yesterday. So just yesterday, some areas picking up close to 3 to 5 inches of rainfall, and then we're talking about another 3 to 5 inches of rainfall possible for today. Maybe isolated areas, especially in the southern CSRA, getting over half a foot of rainfall for today. So as Riley mentioned, just not many places for this water to go, and it is going to start stacking up on top of each other, and that's when those real flooding concerns do begin.
Yeah, and that's the concern, Mikel. I mean, we've already kind of seen 2-3+ inches of rain across a large portion of the area, and we haven't even seen the heaviest rain yet. So, I mean, we're expecting several more inches of rainfall for the rest of the day, folks. So even though you may not necessarily be seeing a lot of impacts right now, that's what was expected. We weren't expecting real impacts from this storm to show up until we had much later into this afternoon, into early this evening. Here's a look at our hour-by-hour forecast. So you can see by around 5:30 p.m., we're really starting to see that intense rain north of the eye. That's starting to pick up across our southern and eastern counties. Even here in Augusta, we're likely going to see that rain rate really pick up later into the afternoon. That's also when the wind threat's going to be picking up. So we're still expecting tropical storm force wind gusts over 40 miles an hour across most of the CSRA, not just our southern counties. Even here in Augusta, we could see a stronger wind gust or two. And the fact that everything's so saturated, a little bit of a wind gust is just enough to bring down a couple trees and cause some outages. This is jumping ahead to around 9 p.m. You can still see intense rain across our eastern counties, northern Aiken County, even Saluda County, all the way down to Bamberg and Allendale. Now, as we head into the overnight, that's when we should start to see improvement. It's still going to be very breezy throughout tonight, but as we head towards daybreak Thursday, that's when the clouds finally break. We get back much nicer weather, and we're going to be in store for fantastic conditions to end off the week. But Mikel, this is what we were talking about. This is what's in store for us the rest of the day.
Definitely, and we're looking at the higher resolution look at this from our HERD model, as you can see here. So the high resolution rapid refresh is what that stands for. But just me and Riley pretty much agree that this is doing a good job of showing the future rain threat moving forward from this point through Thursday morning and afternoon, where potentially some of our southern counties could pick up anywhere from 3 to 6 plus more inches of rainfall on top of what has already fallen today and yesterday, as we just showed you those 24-hour radar estimated totals. So even pushing up towards Augusta, still looking at potentially another 2 inches, maybe 3, as we continue through today, which could be enough to cause some flooding issues even here in the metro. And we do have to watch out for that, especially with these flood watches widespread across the area, a moderate flood risk in place. So the stage is definitely set for those flooding issues to pop up very easily.
Absolutely, Mikel. And as you just mentioned, that's the rainfall in addition to what we've already seen with that last graphic we showed. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see rain totals maybe close to double digits.
Yes, sir.
I mean, some of the most impressive rainfall totals I've seen in our area in a long time. So highlighted in green is the flood watch. Highlighted in yellow is a tornado watch. We haven't mentioned that threat just yet, but there is a tornado watch in effect for Jenkins, Screven, and Allendale County. This is going to be thanks to those stronger rain bands moving inland, and that's where you get those quick spin-up tornadoes. So this is the latest on the severe weather outlook. The most likely place to see the tornado risk definitely going to be along the coast. Remember, as those feeder bands are over water, there's less friction over water, so it's very easy to form water spouts. And once those water spouts move inland, then they're classified as a tornado. So, but we've seen a couple of tornado warnings even right near the I-16 and I-95 corridor earlier today. So those tornadic rain bands are right on our back doorstep, folks. So if you live anywhere in, say, Barnwell, Bamberg, Allendale, Screven, Jenkins, even portions of Burke and Emmanuel County, make sure you have your cell phone charged up. Make sure you can receive those emergency weather alerts, including tornado alerts. So not ruling out that we actually do have to kind of go wall to wall today, maybe covering some tornado warnings across our eastern and southern counties. Tropical alerts in effect for most spots. It's actually easier to name the spots not underneath a tropical alert. So it's really just the northern CSRA. Everyone else along I-20 and south of that, we are expecting tropical storm conditions in the way of very intense rain, strong wind gusts, and we're likely going to see power go out in a few spots, I would imagine, here later today once that wind does pick up. But Mikel, right now, wind's not necessarily too bad, which not unexpected. Not too bad, as you said, not unexpected. We're still a good distance from the center. Definitely, though, seeing those winds picking up continuously in our southern counties. Each time I look at this graphic, those winds are a tad bit higher. So Screven County getting up to gusts already near 30. And again, not seeing the center of the storm passing by yet. So these gusts definitely could continue to get elevated for our southern counties. And here's a wider view of where the center of circulation is for Idalia. And you can see closer to that, we have those gusts around 40, 45 in Brunswick and near 40 in Tifton, Georgia. But as you get closer towards Screven County, they go down just a bit, but that center is tracking straight towards our southern counties and just outside of that really, but still going to bring those gustier winds in a little bit later today, lasting through tonight. So just because those winds aren't too breezy right now, we're not expecting that at this time. As Riley has been hinting of, we knew that that wind threat was going to be a little bit later into today. So definitely don't want to put your guard down just yet. Yeah, and a lot of the reason, some of those, I'll go back to this real quick, some of those observation sites are down, like in Homerville and Valdosta. That's because they've likely been knocked out by intense wind, so it's just not reporting anything in the way of data going to the sensor there. So it has been knocking out power. Nick, can you hear us, Nick?
Yep.
Would it be possible to pull up that Georgia Power outage map and just kind of show people how the wind threat is really knocking out power, kind of where the core of that storm is right now?
Yep, I'm pulling that up right now. Okay, so let's take a look here.
Yeah, so right now here in Augusta, we don't, and really the entire CSRA, we don't necessarily have a ton of power outages, but you can see where the core of that storm is. That's where the stronger wind threat is. That's what's knocking down trees, power lines, and that's what's expected to show up to our area as we head into later this afternoon. Even portions of tonight, the wind's going to be strong. So it's important to know if you do have any kind of questionable trees around your property, make sure you're just staying in a safe place in your house to where if it was to come down, you're protected. Remember, the lowest part of your home is going to be the safest place. You never want to be upstairs, never on a porch, garage, attic, anything like that. You want to be as low and in the most interior part of your home. If you feel like there are some trees around your property that could come down on your home, just make sure you are staying in that safe spot as these winds do pick up into later today.
Yeah, guys, and I think we have Sydney going to try this again here. I think she has stopped. Let me get her pulled up on our site. 1 second here. Okay. Well, that's the wrong thing. All right, hang on. Give me 1 second. We're gonna figure this out together. Well, let me pull this up. Yeah, I just made a little inception there. All right, she's on. 3. Oh, okay. I had her on the wrong one. Okay, so while we're still getting her pulled up, she's not there yet, guys. I was just looking around at these outages. I counted just between these two cells of outages in Valdosta, we're talking like 25,000 customers affected. That's just in the heart of Valdosta. As you go up a little bit up I-75, we've got 24 outages here, 12 here. These are a little bit smaller, but as we get into Tifton, we're talking about 2,000 people or so. And was this Waycross, we've got about 8,500 down by the coast. Over in Brunswick, we're talking 1,000 to 2,000 people. We've got tens of thousands of Georgians without power right now, and that storm is still making its way up towards us. But I think now we have Sydney. So, Sydney, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Nick. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. All right, so go ahead and tell us. Yeah, go ahead and tell us kind of what you're seeing out there. You're in Burke County. You started off, I think, in Waynesboro. Now you're down in the Midville area. So just talk to us a little bit about what you've seen so far today.
Yeah, so we went ahead and we drove kind of south to the county. We're standing here. I'll go ahead and I'll turn the camera around right now. We're right at the Burke and Emmanuel County line. That's the Ogeechee River right there in front of you. And that's what Burke County EMA said. They're kind of closely monitoring it because as these heavy rainfalls come in, they are expecting, water to go up in the river. So we're kind of out here checking it out for ourselves. You can kind of see, not seeing too much of a high rise right now, but these roads right here, this is Highway 56. There is some water starting to build up on the road right now. You can kind of see where I'm walking in right now. It is definitely filling up on the side of the road, but that's kind of what we're out here monitoring. This is the river again behind me, and big thing that EMA was stressing to me earlier whenever I talked with them is if you can at all avoid traveling on the roads because they are expecting some flooding to come. And like I said, looking at the roads right now, not seeing any flooding, but it's definitely super wet out here on the roads. We've got some buildup and some ditches already, so definitely want to use precaution when driving out here today.
Yeah, Sid, is there any wind out there right now? I know that's something we're keeping an eye on too. It can cause a lot of issues. Have you seen any severe winds yet?
I wouldn't say severe winds. It's definitely windy out here, and in the about 2 or so minutes that we've been out here, wind is starting to pick up, and especially whenever we were in Waynesboro earlier, wind was starting to pick up there. So we're seeing the wind pick up, but as far as, anything out of the ordinary crazy, no, but that rain is starting to pick up super heavy out here, I will say.
Well, Sid, be careful. The last thing we need is for you to get caught up in that bridge right there, because that seems to be kind of a dangerous spot. Riley, you can touch on this a little bit. I know you had said we saw some photos of some washed out roads, bridges, and anything basically with water running underneath is going to be a hot spot for some issues today.
I shared a couple of those pictures on my Facebook page yesterday. One of them was from Mill Creek Drive in Edgefield. It was from a couple summers ago. They received 5 inches of rain very quickly, and it completely washed out a roadway there. I think back to Sally, to where that was a tropical system that moved into our area, produced 6 to 8 inches of rain, washed out Highway 24 near Davisboro in Washington County. And also we had a really heavy rain event in January 2019 maybe. Rocker Road in Wilkes County completely washed out. So we've seen it happen a lot whenever we do see these big rain events, and unfortunately that's kind of what we're expecting today, because as Sydney was just saying, it's very wet out there, and we haven't even really got to the main event just yet, so everything's just completely saturated.
Exactly, and no surprise that she's not seeing severe winds at this time.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to see that push until later, but seeing all this rainfall ahead of the actual winds is really more detrimental, you know, making the soils more loose.
Exactly.
And making it that much easier for those weaker trees to come down, and then if they hit a power line, a main one especially, then you have thousands of people without power.
Yeah, and a thing to think about too is that we're in kind of the peak summertime, so all the trees have all their leaves on them, so they're less aerodynamic. They really catch the wind more efficiently. It's not like wintertime to where the wind can kind of travel through the trees a little bit easier, so it's catching everything. It's wet. Everything's heavier. Water's a heavy molecule, very dense. So once those trees just kind of get weighted down with a lot of rainfall, that wind just pushes it, and then it's just timber.
Over.
But Nick, can you take this full screen real quick? We mentioned that Sydney hadn't necessarily been seeing a ton of wind just yet. So this is moving forward into today. So by the time we get to around 5 o'clock, we're seeing sustained winds, 15, 25 miles an hour, maybe a little bit more than that in a few spots. Gusts will be up to 40 to maybe even 50. The stronger wind gusts will definitely be found the further south and east you go. But we're expecting that wind threat to be with us through this afternoon. I would imagine by 3, 4 o'clock, we're really starting to notice the wind more in our southern counties. And then it lasts through basically Wednesday night. It's not until we get to most likely early Thursday morning before that wind does finally calm down a little bit. So not surprising that we haven't necessarily seen a lot of wind just yet. That definitely is expected to be a threat later into the afternoon. Going back to our radar network briefly, just to show you that this thing still has a healthy eye on it, Mikel.
Exactly.
Look at that. I bet that eye's going right over South Georgia, kind of near the Okefenokee Swamp.
Ooh,
and
splitting.
Yeah, so popping right between Valdosta and Waycross, almost getting hit really bad. They're seeing intense rain, and you can see all these polygons around that rainfall. That's where there is flash flood warnings in effect. So I'll pop those up. That's staying in effect until 3 p.m. Yeah, flash flood warnings. That's got a couple hours on it. This one until 2, so they're really seeing the worst of it at the moment. We'll actually throw on, let's see what type of estimated rainfall they have down there. Wow, look at that. Wow. All right, so we'll start putting the query box on some of this. So over 7 inches near Valdosta, 5 there between Waycross and Nashville, 6.5 near Fitzgerald, 5 to 6. So this is the heavy rain that this thing's been producing, and so that's the additional rainfall heading our way, folks. So make sure if you do live in a flood-prone area, may be a good spot to just kind of hang out with a friend or family member the rest of the day until this water does subside, because as Sydney was just showing out in Burke County, or down in southern Burke County near Midville, kind of near the Emmanuel County border, where the Ogeechee River is, they're expecting those type water levels to rise. Right now it's not too bad, but rain's going to continue picking up. Rain rates are going to become more intense, and that's the thing. You can see 4 inches of rain and it not cause a lot of issues if it's spaced out over 24 hours. But if you're receiving 2 to 4 inches of rain in a couple of hour time frame, then there's just no way for that water to really reside in a reasonable manner. So that's why it really causes the flood problems. So the core of the storm is getting closer and closer. I'll kind of put a ruler on. I'll stop the radar right here, and we'll kind of put a ruler on it, see how far away the core of that storm is. It is moving northeast at about 20 miles an hour. So it's roughly about, say, 80 miles away from our southern counties. So moving at 80 miles away, roughly 4 hours. So that puts us at around, say, 5 o'clock, to where the worst of the wind will start be impacting our southern counties, and we'll most likely start to see flooding across the area. So ticking away time-wise, we are expecting the worst of these impacts to really ramp up as we head later into today.
Guys, I wanted to talk, and you may have said this, I may have missed it. We're trying to put together some stuff back here, but I wanted to ask about the track of the storm because we had seen that it was kind of making a nice straight line as it approached Florida. Then it started jogging around a little bit. It's kind of dipped a little west, a little bit east, and then Mikel, at our last update this morning, it had moved a little bit east of where we had projected it just a few hours before. Where are we at now with the storm's track in terms of the center of that storm?
I'll let you take that,
For
Mikel.
sure.
And we got the graphic showing that track if you want to pull that up, Nick.
Yep. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that. But current stats still looking at 80-mile-per-hour winds with this, so a Category 1 hurricane for sure. Getting a little bit closer, though, to maybe weakening into a tropical storm. But it looks like, based off of the latest forecast, that may not happen until early tomorrow morning when it's past our area. So we'll still see a pretty significant system moving by. But in terms of the path, Nick, definitely still seeing it pretty much on par to where it was the last time we checked, just making that very close passage near some of our southern counties, such as Screven, Allendale, and Bamberg counties. But as we continue to see that scoot past and pretty much right over my hometown, Beaufort, Charleston, the closer you are to the center, as we've kind of been hinting, that's where those strongest winds will be found. So that greatest wind threat and the strongest winds will be felt across the southern CSRA because they're going to be closer to the center of circulation versus areas like Augusta, and then even further northward, like around Clarks Hill Lake and Wilkes County, all those counties not necessarily included in that tropical storm warning. So haven't seen too much deviation in the path, Nick, which is a good thing. And if we were to see any deviation for us, we would hope that it would be to the east in terms of lessening impacts here in the CSRA.
Yeah, and this is something I wanted to point out too. Oh, go ahead, Riley, sorry.
No, you got it, Nick. I was just going to say, as Mikel was saying, it's just continuing at a pretty quick pace, and that cone is very skinny, so we have more confidence kind of where the center of that storm is going to be. You can see it gets a little bit wider, though, past 24 hours. You can see into Thursday, that cone just starting to widen a little bit, and even kind of later than that, you can see there is some uncertainty once it gets closer to Bermuda, but there was some thinking maybe this could loop back around, and luckily the latest updates that came through today does kind of have it turning off towards the northeast, thankfully. But Mikel also mentioned the wind threat, so he was saying the further south you go, the stronger the winds are going to be. The further away you get from the eye, that's where you're going to see less of a wind. So you can see up towards Clarks Hill, maybe winds 15, 20, gusts up to 25, 30, but the really stronger wind threat is going to be found in these areas. So Swainsboro, Millen, Sylvania, Waynesboro, Barnwell, Allendale, Bamberg. That's where we're really monitoring the threat for those scattered power outages for the rest of the day.
Yeah, just wanted to mention too, and Mikel, we had talked about this with our earlier audience, don't know if this is the same group of folks, that skinny line that we saw, that's just the center of the storm. So just because the center may fall one way or the other doesn't mean that we're still not going to feel some major effects from it. Just wanted to mention that because we had pointed that out earlier. Because we see that cone and we may think that's the whole storm, when in reality that's just a very small part of the storm. So just wanted to mention that. We do have some video from a couple of our crews out in the field. This is from Aiken. Well, that didn't really want to play now, does it? Oh man, hang on. That really doesn't want to play. Let's try this one. Oh no, all right. Hang on one second. Gary, are you clicking around in here? All right, let's try this again. Nah, these videos don't want to play. All right.
You almost had it.
Well,
I don't know what's going on now. Okay, never mind. Let's talk about something else.
We can take.
What were you gonna say, Mikel? Go ahead.
Let's take the graphics full real quick. I'm gonna do what I did earlier with you. I'm gonna take this just for a brief moment. I'm gonna stop the animation of the radar, and this ruler tool that we have is just very useful. But Nick was just talking about the cone of uncertainty and how it only accounts for the center of circulation. So this is a rough estimate, but pretty much going directly from the middle of the system northward to the outer edges of the shield of rainfall that's really pushing through upstate South Carolina, and we're talking about impacts extending well over 200 miles outside of the center. So again, that cone of uncertainty does a great job letting us know where the center of circulation is, but not necessarily how widespread impacts could be, but definitely does a good job of pinpointing the center and where the strongest winds will be. So still very useful when we're looking at pinpointing areas that have the higher wind threat.
Absolutely. Yeah. And impacts felt well outside the cone, and that's kind of the difficulty with communicating these weather forecasts sometimes. I mean, you got all these different colors, all these different jargon terms, and it can get confusing sometimes. So yes, the cone of uncertainty just showing where the center path is expected. Impacts felt well outside this, the cone though.
Yeah,
And
guys.
Nick, we actually are getting ready to do a cut-in on our NBC channel. So we do have to get prepared for that. But are you going to leave this live stream up with just
we'll leave this up. We do have a crew in the field right now, so I'll talk with them if you guys want to get ready for your live shot, and then we'll come back after we're done and then kind of pick this back up.
Good deal. Sounds good.
Because that's at 122, right? Sound right?
There's going to be a couple of them. I think there's one at 122.
And the other one's like 150 or 155.
Yeah.
Something like that. So.
Okay, so we do have a crew in the field, and then we may take you guys live. We've got other stuff we can do, but whenever you're done, we'll reconvene and we'll just pick it right back up.
Sounds good.
Cool. Thank you guys. Okay, so that is we have Mikel and Riley there in the studio. Now we have got Alyssa Lyons out live for us in the field. Let me get her pulled up. Alyssa, hello. Hopefully you can hear me all right. We don't have Mikel and Riley joining us. I just lied to you about 5 seconds ago. But I know you are, where are you at now? You were in Barnwell earlier on the way to Bamberg. Have you made it to Bamberg, or where are you guys at?
We've made it to Bamberg. We are trying to get lost a little bit to check out how some of these back roads are coming along, because we know that that's a really big concern for a lot of these counties, is how they're going to manage that while also keeping everybody safe. Let me go ahead and turn this camera around for you just so you can see what we're looking at here, Nick. A lot of rain coming down. We're seeing it kind of stand still on the sides of the road. Puddles forming everywhere. Taylor, we stopped by Dollar Tree a few seconds ago, and there is just so much water just standing still on top of the parking lot, and I'm sure that's what we're going to see, but even accumulate even more as the day goes on, Nick.
Yeah, so you've been out there for a little while between the two counties, Bamberg and Barnwell. Compare when you first got out there in Barnwell to now. I know it's been probably 2-3 hours that you've been driving around now.
Yeah, I would say as soon as we got on the road, I think our windshield wipers were probably at low, and now they're working overtime. We just entered a dirt road here. Take a look at this to put in perspective for you. This is going to be the problem. We are sliding over the road here because the runoff is so terrible. We're starting to see it really just trickle down onto the road. That's the major concern that a lot of these counties have, is this is what they're going to be dealing with. So Nick, from that time that we started on the road and got through Barnwell, this is how bad it's gotten. It's really hard to put it in perspective, but you can see it on the ground here, and we are driving so slow through it.
Yeah, please be careful. Important to note, Alyssa is not driving. We have Taylor Martin there as well. She is driving, so that's good. Alyssa, have you been able to talk to any officials out there yet? Any neighbors? What are people saying?
Yeah, Bamberg County is going to be the lead on this one. They've been in contact with Barnwell. They've been in contact with some other outside entities. I know communication from Columbia has even come, so really just talking to everybody to see what the plan is. Everybody's on the same page, and they need to activate those resources. They will. I think the main message though that they are just trying to get out to the public is stay home, because this is how bad the roads are. They're going to only get worse from here on out. Another major concern is that if these winds continue to get up through 35 miles per hour, Nick, they're not going to be able to get those emergency vehicles out on the roads as much as they'd like to. So that's a lot of concern right there, is it's going to be a case-by-case basis on whether or not they're going to send those emergency vehicles out, because they have to be able to withstand those winds as well.
Yeah, so as much as it is on emergency vehicles and the emergency personnel to keep folks safe, keeping yourself safe is definitely the most important step, and that starts with you guys too. Make sure that you're staying safe out there on the roads. I don't know if you're backing off that dirt road and what you guys are doing right now, but hopefully
we are.
Yeah, hopefully you guys are being smart out there, because those roads can wash away quickly. I remember a couple years ago being down in Screven County after a big storm and just seeing how washed away those dirt roads were, and the repair process for those takes some time. And so that could be something similar to what we see here today. Bamberg and Barnwell were two of our first counties put under first alert yesterday. This was before we issued a first alert weather day for the entire viewing area. This was yesterday. Bamberg and Barnwell were two of those early counties put under a first alert. So they are two that should be getting hit pretty hard today. And we'll check back in with Riley and Mikel in just a few minutes on exactly maybe when or how bad that storm is going to be in that area. But as of right now, just seeing some rain. So Alyssa, we do appreciate the update there. Again, stay safe. We'll check back in with you in a little while. Thanks for the update. All right, Alyssa Lyons out there for us in Bamberg. So we've got a couple minutes here until we have that cut in we were going to show you with Riley and Mikel. So what we'll do now is we have a little soundbite from Governor Kemp, who spoke about noon earlier today. So we'll play that soundbite for you, and it's about 3 minutes long, and by the end of that, we should be ready for that cut in and listen to Riley and Mikel live.
As you all know from current events, Idalia made landfall on the Florida Gulf Coast as a Category 3 this morning. Before dropping to a Category 2, and currently it's Category 1 as it continues to move throughout Georgia. We feel like that'll fall to a tropical storm by the time it leaves us and heads into South Carolina. It entered Georgia around 10 a.m. We're thinking that it's going to get to South Carolina between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. this evening. There's been a heavy impact in South Georgia with heavy rainfall and heavy winds. I know most of the people across the state of Georgia will not feel the impact of the storm, but for those that were in the line of the storm, it is very hard hitting, and we're certainly watching that as it continues to move through the state. We had multiple counties in the affected area that are seeing winds in the 70 to 80 mile per hour and some gust up to 90. We know by radar it looks like we may potentially have in some areas 9 to 10 inches of rain. The good thing is this is a narrow storm and is very fast moving, so it's not sitting on us and dumping even more rain than that at one time. So we're thankful for that. Just to give you some logistics on what Director Stallings has been doing at my direction, we've activated the State Operations Center, as you all know, early Monday morning to monitor the storm's progress and coordinate closely with all relevant agencies that I mentioned earlier, not only at the state but also at the local level, and we've certainly been in touch with our partners at FEMA. The state of emergency was issued yesterday, making state resources available to all local governments and organizations within the hurricane impact area. We have assets staged and our personnel are in the EOCs in the affected areas, and we're coordinating with our utility providers, and Director Stallings is going to talk a little bit more about that. Lastly, I would just say that we feel fairly confident that we're going to be able to get crews moving here as we move into the afternoon. We obviously have to make sure that the storm passes and it's a safe environment for them to be working. You're talking winds that drop below 35 miles an hour for folks that need to be up in bucket trucks. We certainly want to make sure our first responders stay safe. But as soon as those conditions are right for us to move, we have resources ready and able to do that. Lastly, I would just say when the storm came into our state in counties like Eccles and Lowndes, we've certainly seen a lot of downed trees. I mentioned the power outages, and there has been some flash flooding. So we're going to continue to watch that as the storm moves, but thankfully it is weakening now.
So there you go. That was Governor Kemp talking there. Now we've got Riley live. He is on the TV side of things, so if you are watching this on TV, you'll see this now, but we'll go ahead and pull this up. This will run probably 4 or 5 minutes.
It's got a pretty good forward motion to it, moving north-northeast at 20 miles an hour. So right now it's roughly about 80 miles away from the southern CSRA. So that we're expecting the core of this storm to be its closest to us by around 5 o'clock. So timing that out to be about 3 to 4 hours away from now. We are still expecting this storm to be a Category 1 as it makes its closest pass to the CSRA. Those winds will gradually decrease over the next 12 hours. It is expected to continue moving off towards the northeast, so we are expecting the impacts to really ramp up the rest of the afternoon. Stay with us through sunset, and then as we head into the overnight hours, that's when we should start to see some gradual improvement across the area. But a very impressive picture on our First Alert radar network. You can see torrential rainfall around the core of that storm, and you can actually see the eye right there. So the eye is basically splitting between Valdosta and Waycross, Georgia, there right near the Georgia and Florida line. It did make landfall as a Cat 4, so this was a significant system, brought a lot of storm surge across the Florida Gulf Coast. And we started seeing the rain on the northern side of this storm early this morning, and we've seen light to moderate rainfall, but we haven't seen the worst of this storm just yet, folks, so I don't want you to let your guard down. We're expecting conditions to really continue to go downhill for us once we get later into this afternoon. That core of the storm does get closer towards us. We are looking at widespread rainfall. Picking up, starting to see moderate rainfall in a few spots. So wherever you're seeing this yellow orangish color, that's where those rain rates are a little bit higher. And the rain rate is what really influences our flood risk. So the higher the rain rate, the more likely you are going to see some flooding. And that's what I'm concerned about as we continue through this afternoon and evening. What is moderate rainfall at the moment should pick up and turn more heavy in nature. And we've already seen 3 to 6 inches of rain across the area, folks, over the last day. And we're expecting an additional potentially 3 to 5 inches on top of what we've already seen. So I'm imagining we are really going to see some impacts from this storm as we head into later this afternoon and evening. This is a look ahead on our model here. So this is 5:30. You can still see, we're starting to see the worst of the rain. This is also when the wind's going to be starting to really pick up across the area. Now the wind threat's going to be a bigger concern the closer you are to the center of the storm. So places up like towards the lake, Wilkes, Lincoln, McCormick County, you're most likely not going to see intense wind. But the further south you go, that's where the wind threat could see gusts 40, 50 miles an hour, sustained winds close to 30. So that's where those tropical storm warnings are in effect. Heavy rain is going to lead to a lot of flooding. We're going to see our creeks, streams, rivers, those levels are going to continue to rise as this rain continues to fall. Once we get closer to sunset, and especially the overnight hours, that's when the intense rain now moves off towards our east. And then we're going to see beautiful weather on Thursday, waking up in the 70s, but high temperatures Thursday afternoon should actually stay close to 80 degrees, believe it or not. Here's a look at our potential rain totals. This is what's on top of what we've already seen. So this is in addition to the rain we've seen across the area from Idalia. So we're expecting an additional 3 inches in Swainsboro, possibly an additional 6 inches for places like Screven and Allendale counties. So that is detrimental to those rural counties, folks. Definitely stay off the roadways. Just don't put emergency personnel or any type of first responder in harm's way by trying to drive around in this stuff. We're going to see a lot of roads impacted, especially the further south and east you get away from Augusta. We do have flood watches in effect for that flood risk. I haven't mentioned this yet, though. We do have a tornado watch in effect for Jenkins, Screven, Allendale County, and that's where there is going to be the possibility of possibly a few quick spin-up tornadoes. You can see we do have a slight risk for places like Screven, Allendale, and portions of Bamberg County, but even Jenkins, Burke, and Barnwell are included in a marginal risk. So I want to make sure you're keeping your cell phone charged up, have a way to receive those emergency alerts, because as the core gets closer, we'll see those stronger rain bands and we'll have the potential maybe for a quick spin-up tornado. You can see our tropical alerts are in effect for pretty much every single county in the CSRA, so make sure you are keeping that cell phone charged up and close by. So if any flash flood warning, tornado warning, anything of that nature is issued for your area. So we are continuing the first alert weather day today. By Thursday, we are clearing out. And take a look at this 7-day forecast. Absolutely beautiful weather expected as we roll into our Labor Day weekend. Morning temps near 60 and lots of sun. But keep it here for those updates the rest of the day.
So there you go. That was Riley on the TV side of things. We're going to get him back on digital here shortly. As soon as they're done wrapping up with that, we'll get him and Mikel back here on the News 12 Now desk. But right now, we do have another crew out there in the field. We've got Hale Turner live for us in Aiken County right now. Hale, how are things going out there?
Nick, it is a little bit of a mess out here. Earlier, we were riding down on Whiskey Road, which is the road we're right off of. If you can see right here, we're gonna pan it real quick and I'm gonna hop down here. This is Mead Road, and this is a dirt road here in Aiken County. Right, like I said, right off Whiskey Road. Pan down here, Nick, so they can see them. Our photog is working the camera a little bit. And it's kind of getting a little bit messy. When we pulled in earlier, it didn't look this bad, and as the rain picks up, the winds are picking up. And back towards like Taco Bell, I'm trying to think of where we're all at. Back towards Taco Bell, there's a lot of water built up outside of a couple of businesses, restaurants, and there's a lot of cars traveling on the road, getting those last minute things that they need, because it's probably going to get a little bit nasty here, what the radar is showing around 3.
Yeah, and Hale, you guys have kind of been all over the place this morning. You went over to Columbia County first. What were they doing over there? I know you guys went in the Emergency Operations Center and talked to the management director out there. What's it looking like in Columbia County?
So in Columbia County, they're like everyone else. They're just kind of monitoring their radars, you know, staying on standby in case they need anything. As of right now, they're not doing a shelter, but if they need one, they'll have that in place. But we also spoke with Aiken County earlier, probably about an hour ago, and all the EMA services are just about the same. They're monitoring the radars, staying on watch. I know that Mr. Paul with Aiken County told me that they are worried about these saturated grounds here in Aiken County, and they are hoping that, you know, as time goes on, it won't be as bad, but they're wanting people to just kind of stay off these roads, and they'll work with us a little bit later this afternoon to figure out what all was talked about in their meeting this afternoon. He's in another meeting right about now, and we'll hear about that later. But it is picking up around here. We've seen a couple of roadway patrols going back and forth, driving. But other than that, just the waters are picking up, and it's becoming a little bit mushy out here. If you can see, I'm standing in a lot of mud. So
yeah, hopefully you guys didn't bring the car down
here.
that dirt road, because that might be a little bit difficult to get out of in a little bit. But other than the
no, we're parked over here on the side.
Okay, good. So other than the dirt road, obviously water levels picking up a little bit. Have you seen any other damage out there? Any trees down, power lines, any other major flooding? Have you seen any real damage? And how's the wind over there too? Because I know that's going to play a factor later.
Oh yeah. Well, at first, you know, when we got here, the rain was just a little bit of drizzle, not a lot. You know, like I said earlier, this road is living proof that the water, you know, is picking up. But no power lines down yet. We have not seen any trees. I've, you know, been scouring Facebook. Nothing that I can see there yet. But the wind has, like you said earlier, wind has picked up probably within the last 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay, so hopefully, you know, you guys are staying safe out there. That's obviously the number one thing we want everybody to be aware. We tried to play your video from earlier. For some reason, it's being a little temperamental and didn't want to play. But we did get that video, and I'm sure we'll have more from you coming up a little bit later on. So, Hale, we'll let you get back to it. We appreciate the update there from you, and we'll hear from you later on this afternoon.
Perfect.
All right. All righty. Hale Turner live for us out there in Aiken County on a dirt road out there, which has started to pick up a little bit as the wind and the rain really get going there. Okay, I think we have Mikel back in the studio. Mikel, just give me a thumbs up if you're ready to go. You did give me a thumbs up. Thanks, man. All right, so let's go ahead and pull him back up here, and then we will get back into our Hurricane Idalia coverage here, kind of watching the storm. Mikel, I see you've got the first alert graphic behind you. Let me get the graphics pulled back up in the system, and then I can pull them up full here in just a minute.
You can hear me too, right? We good?
Yes, sir. You're all good.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, while Nick's working on getting the graphics back right, and Nick, let me know if you have any issues. Maybe something I need to switch over here on my end too. But
I think we got them up. If you want them up, just let me know.
All right, we can go ahead and take them since we got the wider view. Kind of hard to see the information here. So first alert weather day, though, actively in effect. We're going through it right now. We're looking at these gusty winds in between 30 to 50 miles per hour. The 50-mile-an-hour gusts, 45-mile-an-hour gusts, anything over 40 really will be found likely in our southern counties. So we're talking about in between Johnson County eastward through Barnwell County and then dropping south from there. As far as rainfall totals, though, widespread 3 to 6 inches in terms of those rainfall totals across the area. Isolated locations could see localized flooding events where they get over half a foot of rainfall potentially, and then we're still concerned about power outages, especially when these winds begin to pick up as we continue later into the afternoon. And then we're also going to have to watch out for those isolated tornadoes, which do favor, again, our southern counties in terms of that severe threat. So some of the highest impacts does look to be in our southern counties, but we had this first alert for everyone, this first alert weather day, because of the widespread flood threat that we're actively under. And we have a widespread flood watch for everyone. So everyone's under this through at least late tonight, if not tomorrow afternoon. We do have some concerns about creeks and rivers flooding. So if that happens, we typically don't see that until about a day or two after a heavy rain event. So still going to have to monitor certain areas, especially those that are more flood prone and along those creeks and rivers. But as far as looking at Also a tornado watch that's actively in effect for Jenkins, Screven, and Allendale. Again, that severe threat does look to favor some of our southern counties, which if we look at that severe threat for today, you can see that the highest severe threat is right along the coastline of South Carolina at this time, so extending from my hometown area of Beaufort County, South Carolina, all the way up through Charleston and Myrtle Beach. We do have that slight risk that encompasses most of Screven County, Allendale, and Bamberg County, and then that marginal risk, a level 1 out of 5, that encompasses portions of Emmanuel County, Jenkins, Burke, even Aiken County, southern Aiken County, and then portions of Barnwell County. So, Nick, we're watching out for a few of these squall lines and outer rain bands that could get a little bit squirrely and have some rotation in them, briefly spin up a tornado. But as we're looking at Idalia, still making the trek through southern Georgia right now. So we know places like Valdosta, Waycross, Tifton, Georgia, some of the places we've been calling off hard hit so far in the way of heavy rainfall and also intense winds. Now this is pushing through Douglas, about to approach Baxley, Georgia. Some of us may have heard of that, Jessup, but we're continuing to see this work through southern Georgia right now, the worst part of it. But as we see that northwestern eye wall continue to creep ever so closer to the southern CSRA, this is where the intense rainfall is, and those rainfall rates in between 3 to 5 inches in terms of how much we can pick up in a matter of hours. That looks to really begin to impact some of our southern counties. But even northward, Nick, we're seeing some indications of some heavier rainfall building into just south of Augusta, and that's going to continue to rotate towards our area. So we still could get some pretty heavy rainfall here across Augusta, but that heaviest rainfall still projected to really fall across some of our southern counties. But widespread, again, flood threat for today, and those flooding issues could definitely not just be limited to the southern CSRA, but that's where the risk is greatest. And they have shifted this flood risk for today, where we have that moderate risk not encompassing as much of the northern and western CSRA. We have seen that shift a little bit further east. So that's favorable, you know, a good thing there, but still, being that a lot of our southern counties are still under that moderate risk, we're nowhere near out of the woods, Nick, in terms of the flood threat. And honestly, we have not seen the worst impacts from Idalia yet. That looks to come here as we draw closer towards 4 or 5 p.m., lasting past sunset through about 9, 10 p.m. tonight, Nick.
Yeah, Mikel, and even in the last 45 minutes since we've been talking here, we're right next to the window right here. It's gotten darker just in the last, like I said, 45 minutes or so. So we're certainly going to see some impacts here pretty soon from the hurricane. Let's check out this power outage map just to give you guys an idea of what this storm has done so far. This is from Georgia Power, and if we look down here in Valdosta, you're talking about 25,000 plus customers affected. We go over here to Brunswick, 3,500. We've got, I think, Waycross had about almost 12,000. And then as you make your way up 75, another 3,500, 2,200, 750 out there in Moultrie. Thomasville seeing a little bit, 1,500 or so. So yeah, I mean, just all over the place. We're seeing thousands of people losing power there. We do have some video from some other areas of Georgia. Let's go ahead and see if this works. Our video's been a little bit finicky. Okay, this is working. So this is Tybee Island down there on the coast of Georgia.
Yep.
As you see, it doesn't look nothing too extreme right there, but still some pretty good waters. Let's keep looking. Let's keep going here. We got some Florida video. Oh, there we go. So this is what we'd advise you not to do. This is a bad idea, what this guy's doing right here. But
right, look at this.
Unless he's going out to save somebody or something, maybe not the best idea. But this is what they're dealing with down there in Florida right now.
Yeah.
And then let's check out some more. This is, oh my goodness.
What? Where is that?
Whoa. That's in Florida. I'm not sure where. I'll see if I can find it.
I had to guess somewhere in the Big Bend. Like, that is intense wind right there.
Let's see if I can find it real quick. Oh, yeah. This is in Perry. So we did talk about Perry a little bit earlier. That's about an hour southeast of Tallahassee, for those of you who aren't familiar. And that is clearly a very powerful storm that we're seeing. Mikel, we're not going to see anything like that, right? Just hopefully?
No, sir. Look, you're looking at a metal structure, brick right there. So those are winds well in excess of 100 miles an hour that causes damage, like what we just saw, a whole canopy from a gas station just, and essentially that wind cut straight through the middle. But that is that's a lot of force. And no, we're not expecting anything like that, Nick. So thankfully, we are avoiding that serious wind threat that portions of the Big Bend area felt as Idalia, made landfall.
Yeah, we talked about Perry. Here it is again, another video out of Perry. You can just see how powerful that wind is. Taking out those trees there. We saw some video earlier that I don't think we have anymore. Of trees getting knocked down onto a woman's home. And in Perry, we had Cedar Key, I think was the other one that got hit real bad. Tampa got hit pretty badly. And then we're starting to see some effects a little bit here. Mikel, I don't know if you caught Hale's live shot at all. Starting to see some effects in Aiken. A little bit of water out on the roads there in parts of Aiken County, Whiskey Road. Starting to see it a little bit too. So we're starting to feel it a little bit up here. I know Alyssa was on a dirt road in Bamberg that was almost getting them stuck out there. So it's coming.
And what's crazy, Nick, is that we actually have a frontal boundary hanging around as well. So that's really helping to enhance how the atmosphere is really interacting with the moisture from Idalia. So even though we're looking at counties like Aiken and then some of our northern counties not really seeing the highest flood threat, we still could see some heavier rainfall amounts working into some of those northern counties. And just looking at radar, definitely seeing some of those moderate values of rainfall, not really sparing anyone at this time. You know, I feel like when me and you and Tim were up here earlier and we were looking at radar, we saw a lot more of the green to darker green. Now we're seeing more of the oranges and yellows widespread across the area. So the intensity of the rainfall is continuing to pick up. It's also spreading in coverage. So Will Rio mentioned the sunshine came out in Thompson earlier. Never really came out all the way based off of the video that he sent. Definitely cloud cover widespread across the southeast from this system. So if you happen to see a peak of what you think is sunshine, there is a lot more rain to come. So do not take that as a sign that things are over, because we don't expect impacts to end until late tonight. But we're looking at widespread rainfall across much of the CSRA in terms of the moderate to heavier rainfall that is actively falling. So you mentioned Aiken, where Hale is at, and we can see widespread yellows and just a few oranges embedded in there, moving straight through downtown Aiken, New Ellington, you name it, really much, pretty much all of Aiken County. So yes, Nick, I do believe that water is definitely ponding on roadways. We have a flash flood warning now just outside of the CSRA as well, which I just noticed. So let's go ahead and get the information on this and see how much rainfall may have already fallen. You see this flash flood warning, Nick, goes until 7:15 tonight. So potentially this area could be dealing with that kind of heavy rainfall and flooding issues through that time frame, potentially. But this verbiage on this alert says that between 1.5 to 3 inches of rainfall have already fallen in this flash flooded warning area. And then we're also looking at an additional amount of 1 to 3 inches on top of that. So this is the kind of stuff that concerns me and Riley when we're talking about areas that have radar estimated rainfall totals well over 3 and 4 inches just in the past 24 hours. And unfortunately, you can see that some of these higher rainfall totals from the radar do fall in some of these southern counties that are going to be impacted by that same portion of Idalia that is prompting flash flood warnings at this time. So just a quick cue of these rainfall totals in Jenkins, Screven, and Allendale County. You can see in between 5 to 6 inches of rainfall just in the past 24 hours. This is radar estimated, but I don't think that the radar is overdoing that much at all, if any. So definitely a very serious situation that we're still dealing with, Nick. And I know that, it's been relatively quiet, I feel like, for most of the day in terms of not seeing super intense rainfall or super intense wind. But I think the danger with that is that people can assume that maybe we're not going to get hit as bad. But no, the rain is definitely coming, the wind is coming. And even in Thompson now, Nick, we're looking at wind gusts up to 25 miles an hour.
Okay, Mikel, yeah, I apologize. Couldn't pull the graphics up full there because we do have another crew out in the field that we are going to take here. We've got Craig Allison standing by for us right now in Augusta, a little bit closer to home here. We've had people out there in Barnwell and Aiken. Craig, a little bit closer to home. Craig, how are things going here in the metro?
It's going good, Nick. Right now, everything is just a get-ready kind of motion here in Augusta or Richmond County. We've been around the block talking with Augusta EMA, that press conference we just had earlier this morning. I'll try to speak up because we are on our phones right now, live out in the field. But we had that help from Augusta EMA We checked in with engineering as well as the city. So right now it's a lot of just get ready preparations. We went over to Rock Creek where they had cleared out some beaver dams that might have been clogging segues into that creek that saw some flooding in South Augusta. Looks relatively normal, no extra water in those areas. But right now, what the biggest thing the city is saying is just having those resources available. They've been toting the number for Augusta Transit, 706-821-1721, and we'll continue to repeat that number, but that essentially is for if anyone is experiencing flooding to be moved from a wetter place to a drier place. That's that help that you get from Augusta Transit for free. Otherwise, a lot of stuff just on the sides. Engineering hasn't put up any barricades as of right now to block off any city center streets that are congested by the water. And the Red Cross, we just checked in with them, and they say they don't think that they're going to put up any shelters with how conditions are going here in Richmond County.
Okay, Craig, so we know that EMA had their news conference earlier. Did they mention anything about helping out other cities who may be experiencing some flooding? I know Savannah, the coast, supposed to get hit pretty hard. Did they talk about helping out other areas?
Right, so Augusta EMA says it's on a need-to-call basis. Essentially, if another surrounding county to Richmond calls for the help, they'll send out their crews, but they're no longer on an automatic sort of system where they are just automatically sending out crews to go to that help. So for right now, Richmond County is fairly self-sufficient. We do know, however, that the Red Cross chapter here in Augusta has sent people and resources out to where the worst of the hurricane damage is in the more southern part of Georgia / that panhandle of Florida. So Susan Everett's been leading that effort over there. Otherwise, Augusta, Richmond County, keeping things fairly self-contained unless they're called to.
Yeah, and hang on one second. I know, Craig, there are some areas in Augusta that seem to flood every time there's a small rainstorm. Have you seen any flooding, any trees down? I know the rain started a little bit later here than it did in some of our other areas, but have you seen any damage so far?
Nothing abnormal right now in terms of damage in downtown Augusta and in just corners of the street. You can see those typical pileups that you usually see. If you actually point the camera down, you get this usual kind of stuff that piles up here on the sides of those roadways here in the downtown area. That's fairly typical for any level of rainfall, but that is the case. Otherwise, nothing abnormal in terms of damages. No downed trees, no lines. There's a lot of construction work that's already out. Might seem like there's damage, but that's pretty typical for the downtown area. Otherwise, we were just in South Augusta. Again, just those usual spots are seeing that water flow, but nothing abnormal in terms of closed down roads or flooded areas. Augusta EMA did mention that if you're unable to see the asphalt under the water line, do not drive through. Turn around, go somewhere else. It is the safest route so that you ensure that your car and yourself. But that right now, just nothing abnormal in terms of damages for Richmond County.
That's good, and yeah, it's some great advice there. Turn around, don't drown. You hear us say it all the time. It's like a broken record at this point. I feel like, it feels like your parents telling you not to do something over and over and over, but that can be a life-saving thing because you really don't know. There could be a road washed out. There could be power lines in that water, and water is a great conductor of electricity, so you just don't know what is under that water. So, Craig, we appreciate the update out there. We'll let you kind of go about the rest of your day now, getting ready for the evening shows, and stay safe.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, Craig Allison live out there for us in Augusta. He'll be kind of bouncing around the city, seeing what else is going on out there. Craig, you are good. Thank you, my man. Let's continue to talk here about some areas that we've seen. We talked about Valdosta. Craig mentioned some of our local Augusta Red Cross, American Red Cross folks going down to Valdosta. They sent us back some video here. This is kind of their view from where they're staying. You can just see it almost looks like snow out there. Well, let me play it again so you can actually see it longer. It almost looks like snow out there with how hard that wind is blowing. And then we have a second video, not as extreme, but this shows more of the rain, whereas the first one showed a lot of wind. This one shows a good bit of rainfall. Let's see what other videos we have here. I want to go back to, if there's people who just tuned in who may have missed this earlier, Governor Kemp did talk about noon today, almost 2 hours ago now, gave a briefing there. We've got a 3-minute clip from it. We'll go ahead and play a part of that because we are going to jump in and listen to Riley Hale, who's going to be doing a cut-in on the TV side. We're going to pop in and listen to that. But we'll start with Governor Kemp, and then we'll switch over to Riley in a minute.
As you all know from current events, Idalia made landfall on the Florida Gulf Coast as a Category 3 this morning before dropping to a Category 2, and currently it's Category 1 as it continues to move throughout Georgia. We feel like that'll fall to a tropical storm by the time it leaves us and heads into South Carolina. It entered Georgia around 10 a.m. We're thinking that it's going to get to South Carolina between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. this evening. There's been a heavy impact in South Georgia with heavy rainfall and heavy winds. I know most of the people across the state of Georgia will not feel the impact of the storm, but for those that were in the line of the storm, it is very hard hitting, and we're certainly watching that as it continues to move through the state. We had multiple counties in the affected area that are seeing winds in the 70 to 80 mile per hour and some gust up to 90. We know by radar it looks like we may potentially have in some areas 9 to 10 inches of rain. The good thing is this is a narrow storm and is very fast moving, so it's not sitting on us and dumping even more rain than that at one time. So we're thankful for that. Just to give you some logistics on what Director Stallings has been doing at my direction, we've activated the State Operations Center, as you all know, early Monday morning to monitor the storm's progress and coordinate closely with all relevant agencies that I mentioned earlier, not only at the state but also at the local level, and we've certainly been in touch with our partners at FEMA. The state of emergency was issued yesterday, making state resources available to all local governments and organizations within the hurricane impact area. We have assets staged and our personnel are in the EOCs in the affected areas, and we're coordinating with our utility providers, and Director Stallings is going to talk a little bit more about that. Lastly, I would just say that we feel fairly confident that we're going to be able to get crews moving here as we move into the afternoon. We obviously have to make sure that the storm passes and it's a safe environment for them to be working. You're talking winds that drop below 35 miles an hour for folks that need to be up in bucket trucks. We certainly want to take make sure our first responders stay safe. But as soon as those conditions are right for us to move, we have resources ready and able to do that. Lastly, I would just say when the storm came into our state in counties like Eccles and Lowndes, we've certainly seen a lot of downed trees. I mentioned the power outages, and there has been some flash flooding. So we're going to continue to watch that as the storm moves, but thankfully it is weakening now.
Okay, so there you heard from the governor, who gave a briefing a little bit earlier, as did Director Stallings with the State Emergency Agency. But before we get into our cut-in for TV, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the power outages. And this cut-in's about to start here in just a second. So we'll tune into that here in a bit. But we'll take a look at the power outages real quick. This is from Georgia Power. Going to give it a quick refresh. And let's take a look here. Valdosta, still about 25,000. That's pretty consistent with what we saw earlier. I think Waycross had a pretty good outage. Yep, almost 11,000 people there. Brunswick, 400,000, 500, probably 4,000 people throughout the Brunswick area. So we're seeing tens of thousands of people in Georgia without power right now, and that's only about to make its way up closer to us. All right, let's tune into the TV side. Riley's got the latest cut-in over there.
Well, we have seen a lot of rain so far from Idalia, but this is going to start bringing us heavier rainfall and stronger wind for the rest of this afternoon. So that was the rain we've seen so far today has just been a precursor to the main event. The center of the storm is still to our south and heading our way. So we are expecting stronger winds to pick up in the southern CSRA over the next couple of hours, and they're going to stay elevated through at least sunset, possibly even a little bit after that. The track hasn't changed too much. It's still moving northeast at about 20 miles an hour, and right now a Category 1 hurricane and expecting to to stay a Cat 1 hurricane by the time the center does get close to that. Now, we're not expecting hurricane force winds. We could see some tropical storm force wind gusts, and the concern is that all this heavy rain has really saturated our soils, so all it takes is a 40-mile-per-hour gust to knock down trees and power to your community. So make sure you are keeping that cell phone charged up and keep an eye to the sky as well. We do have a tornado watch in effect for portions of Screven, Allendale, and Bamberg County for the rest of this afternoon. Rain intensity is starting to pick up north and south of I-20, just south of Augusta there, down Highway 25 through Waynesboro. Wherever you're seeing that yellow and orangish color, that's where those rain rates are starting to get higher, and we're starting to see this rain pile up, folks. We actually have seen radar estimated rainfall get between 3 to 5 inches across a large swath of the southern CSRA, and we have an additional 3-4 possible inches as the main system does start to move through our region. So I'm expecting some flooding reports. We are expecting the rain to really pick up in intensity the rest of this afternoon. This is 5:30. You can see widespread heavy rain across the central and southern CSRA, and then it does move off towards the east as we head into tonight. Should be beautiful out there for our Thursday. Here's a look at our potential rain totals. What's on top of what we've already seen? An additional 3 to 5, maybe even 6 inches in the southern CSRA. Keep it here for those updates.
Okay, so we've got about a minute break, and then Riley's about to go with another update. So while we're doing that, we'll talk power outages. Actually, you know what? Let's show you a live view here. This is Kiowa Island in South Carolina, just south of the Charleston area. You can see wind starting to pick up a little bit. It's looking real ugly out there. They're more in the path of the storm than we are. So as we heard from Riley and Mikel not too long ago, the storm has gone a little bit more east of where it was maybe 12 hours ago. So it's going to be hitting more of the coast, the Savannah, Charleston area. The center of that storm is. We're still going to get hit with the outer bands. But the center of that storm going to be going through Savannah and Charleston. So again, this is a live look here at Kiowa Island. And folks, if you have any photos or videos of damage in our area in the CSRA, please send them in as the day goes on. We would love to be able to know what's going on in our area, where these things are happening, what sort of damage we're looking at. It also helps the National Weather Service confirm what they're seeing on radar.
Welcome back, folks. I want to highlight the type of alerts we have in effect right now. So highlighted in green, we have flood watches. This is in anticipation of flooding that will become more likely as the heavier rain does move in later this afternoon through this evening. Highlighted yellow is a tornado watch. So we do have currently Screven, Jenkins, and Allendale County underneath a tornado watch. As the stronger rain bands move in just north of that eye wall, that's where they're going to be moving inland, and they could produce a quick spin-up tornado. So as we've been mentioning, keep that cell phone charged up and make sure you have a way to receive those severe weather alerts the rest of today. Every county in our central and southern portions of the region are underneath a tropical storm warning, so tropical storm conditions are expected. We are expecting several inches of rain on top of what we've already seen, and the wind will start to become more of a factor as we head later into the afternoon. Right now, the wind's not too impressive. Right now, we have a gust up to 20 here in Augusta, 17 in Aiken. The further south you go, where they're closer to the eye, that's where those gusts are starting to get between 25 to 30. Now, this is what's expected to happen as we head later into today. Take a look at some of these gusts closer towards the eye. You can see those gusts still between 40, 50 miles an hour, even along the coastline. So those stronger winds, that's what's heading our way as the center of this circulation does get closer towards us. So sustained wind, possibly over 20 miles an hour. Those gusts will be between 40 to 45. We'll stay with high winds through at least sunset. Once we head into the overnight, it'll be tougher for those stronger winds to mix down since there's less mixing in our atmosphere once that sun does go away. So we're expecting the wind threat mainly be an afternoon into this evening. First alert in effect for everybody. I'm anticipating a lot of flood reports for the rest of today. The tornado threat mainly for Jenkins, Screven, and Allendale County, and then wind threat mainly going to be a central and southern CSRA if you are underneath a tropical storm warning. We're going to continue with these updates the rest of the day. You can catch us on Facebook, our app, and then we'll start at 4 o'clock.
Okay, so there you go, getting the live update from Riley on our TV side of things. But as I was saying before we got into that, we would love to get photos and videos from you guys to be able to know what's going on in our area and where. It also helps the National Weather Service confirm that what they're seeing on radar is in fact what they're seeing. So in order to submit your pictures and videos, all you got to do is go to our website, WRDW.com, click on these 3 little lines here and scroll down to submit photos and videos. Real easy. Then you can just add them into whatever category. In this case, it would be weather. Or if you want to do news, that works too. But yeah, weather would be the ideal. So we do have a couple more videos I want to pull up. These are from Burke County. We just got these in a few minutes ago. This is a look at the Ogeechee River down there. It's sort of on the Burke County, Emmanuel County line, right by the Ogeechee River. So that is kind of the water level rising there. Nothing too crazy. And then you've got another one from that same area. You're starting to see some, I don't know if that's a boat ramp or if that's just what that is, just a ramp down to the river, but you see the water starting to flow down there a little bit. We have talked to just about all of our reporters on the scene right now, wherever they are, and a lot of them are saying they haven't seen any severe damage just yet, but according to our meteorologists, that is expected. We're not seeing the major stuff yet for a little bit. Well, let's go back to that news conference from Governor Kemp earlier, because Director Stallings with Emergency Management there, he also spoke. We got a quick soundbite from him, and then we'll see about if we can get our meteorologists back on here for another little bit. Okay, that video doesn't want to play either. Well, we got a couple of videos that are being a little temperamental today. So what we do have, though, some storm damage from Florida. So let's see if this one wants to play. Okay, so this one is playing some storm damage from Florida. Not 100% sure where this is. Let me see if I can find it. This is another video out of Perry. So we have shown you guys some stuff from Perry today. That's about an hour southeast of Tallahassee. That's an area that's been getting hit pretty hard. So we see some trees down and some yards. There's a lot of damage from the wind and rain because as we know, the storm was Category 4 at one point, and now it has weakened down to a Category 1, maybe looking at a tropical storm pretty soon, but right now still a Category 1 storm. That's why we've issued a first alert weather day across the area. Everybody under that. Some counties are under tropical storm watches and warnings, tornado watches. Let me actually pull that up on our website, see if we can.
Trees are getting stacked up.
See if we have it updated there, what the latest looks like. Yeah, we can pull this up. This is from about 12:15. I think it has changed a little bit since then. But you see thunderstorm warnings for everybody, just pretty much Augusta South or Columbia County South on this side of I-20. So a couple counties have avoided the thunderstorm warning. That doesn't mean that you are in the clear when it comes to rain or even heavy rains. It's just not going to be quite as severe as some of our southern counties may see. We do have crews right now out in Aiken, Burke, Bamberg. We did have a crew in Barnwell, McDuffie, all over the area, Richmond County here. So we do have crews on scene in a lot of different places, getting storm video for us, talking to emergency management officials out there at all their counties, just seeing what the plans are and kind of what the protocols are. And it looks like we've got our buddy Mikel back. Mikel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir. Loud and clear,
all right,
loud and clear.
Let me go ahead and pull you back up here.
That's cool, it's cool.
Okay.
Sliding on the jacket.
He throws the jacket on. It's all right.
It's all good.
So,
it's all good.
no, it's all good. Mikel, we've been obviously following this storm all morning. You and I have been doing this since about 10:15 this morning. So let's get the latest update here from you on where Hurricane Idalia is at.
Correct. So as you can clearly see, First Alert Weather Day definitely still in full effect. And as Nick said, we can go ahead and get the latest update on Idalia and where it is and where it's headed. So we're still looking at a Category 1 hurricane now, and they're sending out these updates pretty hourly now, Nick. So now that the system has made landfall, Tim made a really good point to me this morning that the National Hurricane Center is the they I'm referring to, but they tend to start to send out more rapid updates as the system is impacting land, and especially U.S. mainland. So we're looking at now a 75-mile-an-hour Category 1 storm, very weak Category 1 hurricane, really just 1 mile per hour over the threshold. So if this does drop 1 mile per hour or more, then we're looking at a tropical storm, but a strong tropical storm. So not much difference between a weekend Category 1, a higher end tropical storm, but definitely seeing Idalia continuing to weaken. Now that weakening has been a little bit slower though, only dropping about 5 miles an hour in the last hour in terms of that central sustained wind speed. So we're still looking at gusts at times getting close to maybe 85, 90 miles an hour with this system, Nick. But as it is making that passage close to our area, still looks to scoot by just south of most of our southern counties. And as we continue to see that move through Charleston, up the coastline of South Carolina and back into the open Atlantic by tomorrow morning, then we'll see improving conditions for sure. Really as early as midnight tonight, though, we definitely could see some improving conditions, Nick. Still pretty breezy, though, I would say, through at least maybe early tomorrow morning. But as we continue through your Thursday, we definitely see those winds ramp down pretty quickly. And we can look at that in particular for Augusta, and it'll give a pretty good idea of the rest of the CSRA as well. You can see our wind speeds in terms of gust here in Augusta. Pretty
Hang on
much
one second,
peak in
Mikel.
between.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh,
Hang
yeah.
on one second. I think we've got the wrong graphics up. Hang on. 'Cause,
Oh.
right now, you're in 2. Hang on. All right. Go ahead. Continue. Sorry. We just had the
I'm
first
just
alert
talking.
weather day graphic up. No, you're good. We had the wrong computer in there. Good.
I didn't even realize. So yeah, back to Idalia, 75 mile an hour winds. As I mentioned, it has went down 5 miles an hour from the last update about an hour ago. Still moving towards the northeast at 20 miles an hour, but now we have more of a defined northeast motion. So we're starting to see that ever so slight turn now taking place, which is good because honestly, that center of circulation, Nick, is getting kind of close to Emmanuel County. So we need to go ahead and see that shift, and you can see that within the last few animations of this infrared satellite and also the tropical track that jog to the east. So that's the motion we want to see, Nick. Don't want to see a westward jog at all with this system. So that is favorable in terms of following this projected path as it continues to turn more towards the north and east. So eventually we'll probably get more of an east-northeast movement with this as we head through this evening, and then eventually straight east out towards Bermuda. But as we continue to track this, Nick, I was just saying that the track does look to pretty much still be on par to where it was last time we checked, and that it'll be scooting just past some of our southern counties, which is where we could find those highest wind speeds and also the greatest threat for some intense flooding rainfall. So as we look at wind gusts, though, here in Augusta, moving forward, we're looking at a window in between about now pretty much through 10 p.m. tonight where we could see the highest wind speeds, and then as we continue past midnight into your morning tomorrow, just keeping those winds in between about 10 to 15 miles per hour in terms of gust, so considerably less in comparison to what's expected here as Idalia does make a close passage to the southern CSRA. Looking at it on radar right now, we do still find it, pinwheeling in some of these heavier rainfall bands, and unfortunately seeing some weak signs of rotation now moving through Burke County. So we're going to have to continue to watch these rain bands as we do watch out for brief spin-up tornadoes being possible with this system, Nick. But praying that we don't get, any actual tornadoes verifying for it today, but the potential is definitely there across the southern CSRA. But definitely seeing just that widespread moderate rainfall taking a hold of the entire region now. And as we continue to see this northwestern eye wall of Idalia now nearing Emmanuel County, this part you can really, wow, look at that, just seeing a flood advisory popping up right before our eyes right there. But as we continue to monitor this north and western eye wall of Idalia, it will continue to pinwheel the heaviest rainfall associated with this system into Emmanuel County, likely Jenkins and Screven County, maybe even as far north as Allendale and Bamberg here. So definitely something we're keeping a close eye on, Nick. Very fluid situation, and again, the stage is set with all the rainfall we saw yesterday, and also thinking back to the weekend for things to flood very easily here in the CSRA. As far as that severe risk, just can't emphasize enough that we're looking for those tornadoes pretty much south of Augusta and across the southern part of the region. So thankfully, not a widespread tornadic threat, but that flood threat is still pretty widespread in the way of a slight to moderate risk that encompasses just about all of the CSRA, only slivers of Wilkes, Lincoln, and McCormick County underneath a marginal risk, which is as low as that threat can be, Nick. But flooding is what we're looking out the most for. And then right behind that, I would say tornadoes, and then behind that will be those gusty winds.
Yeah, Mikel, I mean, those, if you go back out to the wider shot where we saw that flood advisory pop up.
Oh, yeah. That was pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, that just kind of happened on the fly. But what, there are the darker green boxes there right to the left of where that flood advisory is. Is that another flood advisory?
So this is a flash flood warning, which is kind of outlined in red, kind of hard to see, likely from your vantage point, and it's not like a bright red, but it's a red line kind of bordering the green, which for us is a way to differentiate, because we used to have issues kind of differentiating flood advisories from flash flood warnings because they all look the same in terms of the polygons. But now that we have this red line denoting flash flood warnings, Again, this part of Idalia is moving ever so closer to Emmanuel County, so definitely starting to see elevated concerns with that in terms of those intense rainfall rates around the Glenville area of Georgia. This is a flood advisory that goes till 4 p.m. But even here, we're looking at 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. Actually, let me correct that. 3 to 4 inches of rain have already fallen in this area. Nick has already fallen, and then another 2 to 3 expected in this short time frame in between now to 4. So definitely some impressive stuff there.
Yeah, let me ask you. So we've got this flash flood warning right there, really just below the CSRA. So
Yep.
is it possible that within the next half hour to an hour we start to see these advisories pop up around our area, or is it not really something you could predict?
Definitely, I would say within the hour, likely max, that we will start seeing some flood advisories popping up in the area, especially for these southern counties, again, where we've seen well over 3, 4, maybe even 5 to 6 inches of rainfall. So this is radar estimated rainfall totals again, but anywhere from 2 to 6 inches just yesterday. So these grounds are very saturated, not going to be able to hold much more water, if any, in terms of rainfall. So definitely, Nick, expect to see those flood advisories, alerts, and warnings begin to expand into the CSRA shortly.
Okay, so something we'll have to keep an eye on, certainly, Mikel. And we keep talking about the track. Are we still on pace for it to go a little bit right, more over the Savannah, Charleston area? Just the center of that storm, not meaning the whole storm.
We definitely are on pace to see that moving more towards the Savannah area and south of the CSRA in general. But still, even with that being said, just have some of our southern counties barely, really just looks like now southern Screven County included in that cone of uncertainty. But as Riley mentioned earlier, a very skinny cone as it's passing by the CSRA. So I don't really forecast much deviation in this path. I think it's going to kind of thread the needle in between Savannah and let's say Sylvania, even Statesboro. But I think it's going to pretty much thread the needle right in between Savannah and Sylvania. But still, as we talk about those impacts being felt 200 miles plus outside the center, even with that passage not directly over our southern counties, those winds will be definitely elevated. We're looking at a Category 1 hurricane potentially still scooting by the area, so we could easily see those wind gusts in our southern counties approaching 50 miles an hour at the peak of this, which looks to be closer to about maybe in between 6 to 10 p.m., Nick, for our southern counties. Okay, we do have some more fresh video we want to show you. This is from Steinhatchee. I don't know if I said that right, but it's in Florida, I think it's about 60 miles west of Gainesville. This is a bad idea for that car. Moving would probably be recommended there. You can just see the winds, the water is coming up high there, and this was a scene really all over Florida. We saw it in Perry, we saw it in Cedar Key, we saw it in Tampa. Now we're seeing it here in Steinhatchee. Florida got pummeled. They did. I'm trying to figure out where Steinhatchee is.
I was told it's a little west of Gainesville, 60 miles or so. Oh my God.
Riley says it's a big fishing community in Florida.
That makes sense. It's a fishing community. See, it's on the water.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's the same. Wait a second. Look at this. Okay, hang on. That was the same house. So this is. Oh, hang on. This is before. All right. So watch this. This is like a minute long thing. This is before.
Yeah, that car, boy. What are they doing?
So. Yeah, this is pretty much. Pretty much directly west of Gainesville.
Okay.
But look, all right, so here's the before shot. So keep in mind what we're looking at here. That red house on the stilts. All right? And then when this shot switches, watch the after. That's the same road.
Whoa. Imagine if that car was still out there. Oh my gosh, that's the ocean.
I didn't realize it was the same road until, because there's that sign, and then there's that same house.
Look at that big old yellow thing in the middle of the road, man.
It looks like part of a house.
That is the same sign, almost like a billboard too. It's something that shouldn't be down there floating. We know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't realize that first one was a before shot. I thought that was just like I thought that was the after shot.
That is pretty crazy.
Wow.
well. Yeah. Steinhatchee ain't popping up on the Florida map for me, but
no, I think it's a
directly
small,
west of Gainesville. Oh, it's
I think
small.
it's a small town. I think it's a small town. I don't know if it's going to pop up on the maps there. But yeah, there you go. That's what it looked like. And then I pulled it up on Google Maps. If you see here, Gainesville right here, and then Steinhatchee just directly west of that.
Okay. And a little notch.
I guess about a little south of Perry, which is a place we've been checking out. So that makes sense that Steinhatchee got hit pretty hard because we've been talking about Perry getting hit pretty hard. Another area that when we were doing this maybe an hour or two ago, the center of the storm was going right over Valdosta at the time. Are they more in the clear now? Has it kind of passed through them?
I would imagine that they're more in the clear. Don't think that they're totally in the clear yet, though, on the backside of that system, though. Let's see here. Yeah, they're getting some lighter rainfall now and definitely have probably seen those winds come down some, but I'd imagine that they're still pretty elevated. Let me see if I don't know.
And we know Valdosta, we've got local American Red Cross crews down in Valdosta right now. We do have that video too if it wants to play. It does. As you can see, this is the view from where they're staying. It almost looks white there. It almost looks like snow because that wind is blowing all that rain around. And then we have one more from them. This shows more of the rain. We're still showing some of that wind too, but they've had some intense weather down there. And Mikel, one thing I thought was interesting that you guys had talked about earlier was those two, I don't know if they're radars, barometers, whatever the 2 meters down there are that aren't showing anything. There may be a reason behind that.
Definitely. We're looking at Valdosta and Homerville potentially. I think that's what that says, but yeah, Riley was mentioning that likely we saw those observation stations get knocked offline either from a power outage or from the wind actually damaging the systems themselves. So not reporting any data at all from Valdosta, or I believe that's Homerville, south of Alma, Georgia. But you can see though, Nick, still some intense coloration on the contour, which is those colors you see on top of the map, which to me indicates that Valdosta is likely definitely still seeing some very breezy conditions in the way of 30 mile an hour to 40 mile an hour gusts. And you can also look around Valdosta and see west of them in Bainbridge, it looks like 33 mile per hour gusts there. As we look towards Fernandina Beach in Brunswick, we're looking at 48 mile an hour gusts, 47 mile an hour gusts. So anywhere from 30 to 50 almost mile an hour gusts still occurring in Valdosta. Even though their rainfall situation has improved immensely, not seeing that torrential rainfall that they were seeing this morning. But I heard you mention Thomasville earlier, and we actually have a reporter from there, and she told me that her parents were reporting some intense conditions early this morning, talking about Hale, Nick. So that's right west of Valdosta, but definitely seeing improving conditions in the way of rainfall, not so much wind though, until they get a little bit further from that center of circulation. Yeah, and all that wind causes a lot of issues, as we know. And let's take a look again here at the Georgia Power outage map. Down in Valdosta, they're reporting, let's back up a little bit. In the Valdosta area, they've got 50 plus outages, 64 outages, more than 25,000 people impacted by that. Going a little bit west towards Thomasville, 1,500 people among these 5 outages. Not too many over there. Is that Moultrie? Yeah, Moultrie's got about 750 almost. As you go up I-75 towards Tifton, I think that is. Yep. Whoops. Too much. Going towards Tifton, another 3,000 people, and then you mentioned Brunswick, 4,500 people. Fernandina Beach, about 3,300 people. Waycross, 11,000. Savannah has about 4,000 plus over there. So really all up the coast and now all up through South Georgia, we're seeing tens of thousands of people without power. And as that storm moves towards us, we may be starting to see some outages here too. It looks like we do have some outages actually. One in Midville right now, about 493 people without power there. Down in the south side of Burke County, down towards Emmanuel and Jenkins, and then it looks like we have one just outside of our viewing area in Soperton. I don't know if I said that right. Yeah, that sounds like Jefferson County, I think.
Oh, is it down there?
Soperton.
Okay. 174 people without power there. So, yeah, we're starting to see those outages hit our area as the storm continues to make its way up. But, Mikel, I think we were going to wrap things up here about 2:15, so you guys can get ready for the evening shows. But we do appreciate the updates these past couple hours from you and from Riley and Tim. And we know as soon as the storm gets into our area, you guys will be all over that. Folks, we do appreciate you tuning in here, getting some live updates on Hurricane Idalia, making its way up towards the CSRA now. Make sure you have the First Alert Weather app downloaded so you get all the notifications from these guys on exactly what's going on with this storm and how to stay as safe as possible from it. And yeah, that's kind of the big thing right now, staying safe, and we'll kind of keep you guys updated with what goes on. So, Mikel, we appreciate the time.
No problem at all, Nick, and just echoing you, safety is the #1, priority for today for everyone, and definitely don't want to, put your life on the line to get any kind of video or just to, get a closer look at damage. If you see roadways covered in water, just don't drive over that roadway or through that standing water. You don't know what's beneath it, and that's, the main reason why people end up in, ravines when we're talking about washed out roads that they couldn't see, of course, because the water was so high. But definitely expecting some power outages. As Nick said, we're already seeing some of those in a few of our counties, Jefferson and Burke. And then also talking about just some of the worst impacts from Idalia here locally moving in as we head through about 3 to 10 p.m. tonight. So the worst of the system hasn't really moved through yet. Just want to continue to highlight that. And we are still encouraging people to just hunker down in their homes, stay off the roadways if possible, make more room for emergency services to be able to do their job effectively. But some of the worst impacts still expected across the areas shaded in orange here are southern counties. But for those of you shaded in yellow, still don't put your guard down in terms of that flood threat especially. And then also those winds picking up in intensity as we continue through this afternoon to this evening. And then that tornadic threat, again, favoring our southern counties, but praying that we don't get any kind of warnings at all. So, Nick, we're going to continue to keep everyone updated. This is the place to be with News 12 and your First Alert Weather team. And, we have newscasts cranking up at 4 p.m. all the way through 6:30, again at 7 and 11. And we'll be definitely hitting weather hard at the top of all those shows. So be sure to stick here with us for those updates.
Absolutely, folks. We appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to download our WRDW streaming app as well as the First Alert Weather app. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can hit that subscribe button right there for all of the latest news and weather coming from our station. So thanks for tuning in. Stay safe. Have a good one.